Hello everybody, Zon Gets 134 here.
And as always, I'm Average Joe Squad.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Hyphen, the show where we look at comic books, movies, and everything in between. Spidey this once again. I don't know why I keep repeating it because everyone should know, but in case you decide to watch these out of order or you just watch because you see the title, this is part of Spidey Miss, where every month, every year of December, we review different Spider-Man stuff for Christmas. And this one I thought we'd have a little fun with. We're going to talk about the many different animated series that Spider-Man has had. You know, I think he actually has more than Batman.
I think he does, honestly.
Yeah. So, I know we've already talked about TSA. We will bring it up, but just briefly, just because we've already did a whole retrospective on it, because it's one that is very important to both you and me. But basically, ever since practically Spider-Man existed, there have been TV shows and animated series about him. Of course, the Nicholas Hammond show, which I need to watch so that you and I can actually talk about that show. I kind of don't want to, but I will.
I actually like that show.
To be honest, I feel like if I watch it, I'll probably be like, it's not as bad as I thought it was. And of course, there's also the famous Japanese Spider-Man show, which we will get to, probably not this year, but next year. I just haven't had time to watch it all the way through. But for now, we're just going to talk about the various animated series that Spider-Man has had over the years and, just kind of talk about our thoughts on them. So let's start off with the original one, which actually I think debuted a year after Spider-Man was a thing. I want to say it came out 63 and Spider-Man was 62.
67.
Oh, 67? Okay, so it was only 4 years after Spider-Man debuted. We have, of course, Spider-Man. And I'm pretty sure all of you know the theme song. Spider-Man, Spider-Man.
I like that Aerosmith cover of that.
The Aerosmith cover is pretty good. Which ran from about 67 to 70. Because it was only three seasons. Well, I say seasons, shows back then didn't really have seasons. At least not the way we think of them now. But this show was actually created. Well, the first season was created by a different company, but the other two were created by Rankin Bass. Or maybe they were all created by Rankin Bass. I forget. Rankin Bass, of course, being the same guys that created the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer claymation specials. Which is actually funny because the voice for Peter Parker in this is actually the same voice actor as the elf from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. In fact, there are actually a couple of voices from that. Weird little tidbit, I know. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but
I didn't even know that.
yeah, this was animated by Rankin Bass. The original season was actually kind of interesting in that it basically follows the first dozen or so issues of Amazing Spider-Man. Although, weirdly enough, they don't do the origin for Spider-Man until the third season. It was actually the third season opener. And it's actually probably one of the better, because it literally is just a shot-for-shot remake of that.
I had that on I think it was Return of the Green Goblin,
Yeah.
the VHS tape. It was on the end of that. It was a bonus.
Yeah. But basically it ran for about, I think, 60 episodes. I know that seems like a lot, but that's because, the first season was, they were all, 22-minute episodes. The last two seasons were all 15-minute episodes. Basically, they were shorts that were, packaged together. It was interesting because it actually had Peter dating Betty in the show because at this point Mary Jane didn't exist. I know she showed up in later parts of the series, but she barely acts like Mary Jane. But they actually kind of made it that Peter's love interest was Betty because it was her, Peter, and J. Jonah Jameson that were really the main characters of the first series. Aunt May showed up a little bit, but basically the show was always Peter was at the Daily Bugle trying to get pictures to make ends meet. And in doing so, he ends up finding a crime and he has to stop. One of the ones I remember watching was when Disney... It was basically when I think, second or third Spider-Man movie was coming out. Disney acquired the rights to all the Spider-Man animated series. And they played, every episode of every show. And one of the episodes I remember watching from that was the Dr. Octopus episode of the Spider-Man TV show. Because I'd actually never seen that show at the time when I was that age. I didn't even know it existed. The show's pretty fun. I like the song. I like the voice casting is actually not half bad. They actually do their job pretty well.
Yeah.
The problem with the show is
It hasn't aged well.
It hasn't aged well because the animation is
not very good, and there's some casual racism in it.
Yeah. You probably know a lot about the animation because it's used a lot for Spider-Man memes. Like the one where he rolls himself up into a ball, or the knife gun meme.
Spider-Man's driving the mystery machine. Dread derailed.
Dread derailed. Like there's a lot of memes from this show because of just how...
The one behind the desk is the best because that's in the Spider-Verse.
Everyone else is having fun, and I'm just sitting here masturbating.
Shit like that. Is
like... Yeah, because like there's...
If you look up 60 Spider-Man memes, you will get some ones that are pretty fucking raunchy. There's a couple that are really fucking raunchy.
Yeah. Like I said, like, the show had a lot of weird animation, particularly in the later seasons when they, stopped using, like, classic Spider-Man villains and just started making their own up. Like, weird snowmen and aliens and just, like a lot of racism.
That Australian dude.
That Australian dude with the...
Me and McCond and Lava.
With the... I guess
the
Aborigine...
really fucking racist.
Yeah, the really racist Aborigine...
Which is like, God damn, that hasn't aged well. What's so fucking?
I think there's also one with a Muslim character that they call a swarmy that has a magic carpet.
Which is just, again, like, God damn, can you guys be a little more fucking racist?
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, it's
like that shit is. I can see why. Oh, that hasn't been reissued on Blu-ray. I wonder why the fuck not.
The other was it was in limbo for a long time. Who owned the rights to it because it was originally aired on NBC, but they, of course, let the rights run out.
Which, by the way, you can find this entire show on archive.org along with Spider-Man Unlimited.
It did have a DVD release when I think the second Raimi film came out.
Which is the one we saw down at that one smoke shop. But that one's really expensive now because I think it's out of print.
Yeah. I want to say you can actually watch it on Disney Plus.
It's not.
It's not?
Disney
Okay.
Plus.
If not, it probably will be at some point because people love this show.
I like it for the memes.
I like it for the memes, and I like the actor who played Spider-Man. He has a very good sound to him. Yeah. He also kind of does really well at making Spider-Man sound really heroic and Peter sounding different.
Yeah, kind of like pulling like a Michael Keaton.
Yeah, kind of like pulling
or a Kevin Conroy.
Yeah. Like I said, if you're a casual Spider-Man fan, I wouldn't recommend watching this. If you love Spider-Man and you want to see
the memes, where the memes come from,
yeah, I would recommend.
When you're watching 60 Spider-Man, you spot the meme.
Yeah. And again, you can find this. You can easily find this online to watch.
Again, the animated series and Unlimited, they are all on archive.org for free in their entirety, along with Japanese Spider-Man. I think Hammond might be on there somewhere, but if it is, I haven't found it. But I have that all on DVD. So
yeah. But yeah,
I got mine's an unofficial DVD release, of course. I got it on eBay. You gotta get a good deal on it because I'm not paying. Don't pay $50 for it. Get it for like $20.
It is interesting to see a show where Betty is actually an important character because Betty
is all but ignored in a lot of Spider-Man.
I think the next time you see her isn't until Spectacular. Well, I mean in terms
of animation, yeah.
Yeah, Raimi, yes. So because there's nothing really to Betty. Which, as we talked about in the Why It Had to Be Mary, our Why Mary Jane podcast. So the next show, at least that I know, and it's not the one you think it is a show that in Europe is known as Spider-Man 5000. Over here was just, I think, called The New Adventures of Spider-Man or The Amazing Spider-Man, or maybe just Spider-Man, I forget.
I think it's just called Spider-Man.
It ran for one season, I think 1980, 1982. It was actually kind of a predecessor to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which
same animation style.
Yeah, same animation style.
A lot of the same villains too, I want to say.
Yeah, especially because I think they fight Doctor Doom just as much as in the show.
I'm still like, he's not a goddamn Spider-Man villain. He's a FF villain. Get out of here.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Spider-Man fought him in issue 6, so the people are well, obviously him and Doom have beef. I'm like, Doom doesn't
give a fuck about him.
Spider-Man's a low-level street character to Doom.
No.
Doom
only cares about riches.
Doom only cares about riches and hitting that sweet Sue Storm ass. Well, am I wrong?
Is he fucking Namor now? His whole existence is still Sue?
You're gonna tell me I'm wrong, bro?
Get educated. Get fucking educated, Adam.
Like, well, you can't. Excuse me, Secret War didn't kill Reed.
Get fucking educated.
Secret War had him kidnap Reed and made Sue his concubine, so forgive me if I don't think he wants to hit that shit.
Get educated.
Okay, like half of the FF villains wanted to fuck Sue. Leave me the fuck alone.
Get educated.
Anyway,
I hope you know that's a reference to that video.
I know it is.
Where he's telling that guy yelling about the witch.
I know it
to
is,
get
but like
educated.
don't tell me that like Doom
Get
didn't
educated.
want to fuck Sue.
Get educated.
There's also this really weird X-Men Fantastic Four comic where they kind of hint that Doom wanted to bang Storm.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it kind of makes sense because like Storm and Doom are both kind of regal in that regard. You can kind of see like
I can kind of see it.
I kind of like Doom is kind of suave. Like for all his douchebaggery, he is kind of a decent fellow. But
At time, depending on who's writing them at that point.
This show only ran like a season. I don't know how many episodes there are because I've only ever seen bits and pieces of it. It's sadly never been released on DVD, at least officially.
Like a lot of these, you can get these on eBay if you literally punch it in and put Blu-ray or DVD. They will come up.
Yeah.
They can run a little pricey though, so just be prepared.
I think there were like 3 or 4 VHSs that had a couple 2 episodes on it. I know because I actually own one of them. I found them at like
It's on Disney Plus though.
It is?
Yes, it's on Disney Plus. I showed you this. It's on
Wow,
Disney
I did
Plus.
not. Okay.
This, Amazing Friends, Unlimited, TAS, and the two most recent Spider-Man comics, they are all on Disney Plus.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Along with the Spider-Woman animated show.
Which we won't talk about because that's not a Spider-Man show.
That's not in canon.
Yeah. This actually, I think, is actually the where the Black Cat debuted in animation, because she had her own episode. Also, I think Peter's dating Mary Jane in this show. I want to say, or no, I think he's still dating Betty in this, or trying to date Betty in this. It's very much closer to what you would think of a traditional Spider-Man than like the last one, just because it's better animated and they do use some Spider-Man characters. I think Harry Osborn actually shows up in this show for a brief period. I can't remember. Like it's not very good, and I think it's only like 6 or 7 episodes. A lot of which are him fighting Doctor Doom. Because I think like at least 6 episodes of the show are dedicated to him fighting Doctor Doom for some reason. I actually think it's because I think I do know why. Because Hanna-Barbera was making the Fantastic Four show, and I don't think they had the rights to Doom.
That could probably be why.
So that was why they were doing Doom here, so they could keep the rights to Doom. Which is hilarious, because that show had Reed Richards fight Magneto with a wooden gun. But I don't know much about the show, and all I know is it's not very good. They changed the voice actor for Spider-Man from this to Amazing Friends. And basically, they completely changed the story around after this to be more focused on him and the Amazing Friends. So why don't we go into that? You can.
Which I have fond memories of, because around the time the Raimi film, the first one, got released, I remember this being on rerun. Like I remember watching this on TV.
Which had the guy that announces Jeopardy as the announcer.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends.
Which is like I remember this on TV. Like I remember watching this Unlimited and TAS a lot.
Yeah.
So I forget what channel it was even on. It might have been JetX.
It might have been. It probably was JetX.
Probably was JetX.
Because I think this was one of the. Yeah.
That was back when JetX was still a thing.
Well, that was where they marathon all the Spider-Man shows when I watched it. So that would make sense to me.
That would make sense to me as well, because I might have also watched it on Boomerang. It wouldn't surprise me.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because I had Boomerang back in the day, which was apparently rare back then, but I had satellite in like 2002.
Yeah. Anyway, what is the plot of Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends?
Yeah, he lives with Angelica and Bobby from both of them from X-Men. Yeah. I mean, Angelica got introduced later, but they all just rooming it in an apartment and just doing.
No, they live in Aunt May's together.
Yeah.
Angelica is actually Firestar.
Basically an apartment.
Yeah. Firestar and Bobby Blake, which you know as Iceman from the X-Men. I guess they got tired of the X-Men's bullshit and decided to room with Peter for a couple of years.
I got tired of Wolverine cutting up my shit.
Yeah. The premise basically being that the 3 of them work together to fight crime. They actually live in Peter's room, which is actually outfitted with technology given to them by Tony Stark for some reason. The series, of course, introduced Firestar as a character for the first time, which later she got introduced into comics as a member of the New Warriors. I think they still try to imply she was a member of the X-Men at some point, but I don't think it's nearly as...
And she just recently got a Marvel Legend figure of her original costume.
Which is impressive.
So now you can do Spider-Man and his amazing friends in Marvel Legend form.
It's funny, they used Firestar because they didn't want to use the Human Torch. And this goes actually back to the Fantastic Four show as well, because they didn't use the Human Torch there.
They were worried about kids setting themselves
on fire to imitate the Human Torch.
Which is really fucking stupid.
Yeah, which I'm like...
I understand the concern, but that's pretty... It's assuming kids are absolutely retarded.
Well, not only that, like, wouldn't you
like,
be...
no offense. I don't like to use that word, but like...
Wouldn't you be afraid, like, kids would try to stick themselves in the refrigerator to make themselves Iceman?
People don't give kids enough credit. Like...
Yeah, like...
Yeah, kids can be kind of, like, naive and impulsive, but, like...
Well, like,
a lot of them aren't that dumb.
From a very young age, I was told that fire was not something you touch.
Like that...
And
like no one is that dumb, like at all. I don't understand why that was a big deal.
And not like that, like as a little kid, I would know that like the Human Torch can do that because he has superpowers. Yeah. I know as a little kid I didn't have superpowers. Like I like Spider-Man, but as a little kid I didn't try climbing up a fucking wall. Like, but bottom line, the show
bottom
also
line like. Yeah, completely understood, but like they really should have given kids a little more credit.
The show also
kids aren't dumb. Yeah. So, and again, I apologize for using the R word, but that's about the level of lunacy that this is.
Yeah. Bobby, of course, just being Iceman, who is voiced by the guy who voices Fred in Scooby Doo.
I don't know who that is offhand.
Frank Welker.
Frank Welker. I'm glad you knew that name offhand because I don't.
Yeah, he voices Fred. Which is hilarious. I forget who plays Angelica. I think she's like another like Cartoon Network character. The guy who voices Peter actually would come back to play Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, in Shattered Dimensions, because they got a voice actor from every animated show they could, which is hilarious because they got Christopher Daniel Barnes back as Spider-Man Noir, and Josh Keaton as Ultimate Peter. But basically, this show also introduced another character into the Marvel Universe. A pet dog for Aunt May named Miss Lion. Why is that important? Because Miss Lion is a member of the Pet Avengers. Formed in the story Lockheed and the Pet Avengers. Where they fight Thanos to keep the Infinity Stones away from him. And she's the worst part of the show. Because all she is there to be is just comic relief. And so basically the premise of the show is more or less just Peter, Firestar, and Iceman fighting crime. A lot of times with Iceman and Firestar being completely worthless, so Spider-Man has to rescue their asses. I've seen a few episodes of the show, and pretty much almost every episode has Spider-Man rescue them. Which is kind of a shame because, like, I like Firestar and Iceman. I think it's a little unfair that, like, they get, like, thrown under the bus a lot, especially when they arguably have...
Contrary to rumors, she was not a replacement for Human Torch and was part of the initial series pitch.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I thought... Because I've always been told that she was...
Apparently that's a rumor.
Huh. Okay, well... I did not know that. Okay. But, like, because And the show is actually pretty cool, because but unfortunately, it suffers from the fate that a lot of these shows did back then. They didn't want to use a lot of the actual comic book villains. Like
also, Angelica's voice actress was also... She voiced Firestar and Storm on Amazing Friends and Miss America and Guyla on Spider-Man.
Oh, cool.
Like, DAS.
Oh, she's one of the invaders. Okay.
She was also in... anything that you and I would notice. Real Ghostbusters.
Okay.
That's about it. That's everything I noticed that she was in that I have actually seen.
Because I know the first episode of the show has them dealing with Green Goblin, who is Norman Osborn, but he mutates into the Goblin.
Yeah, there's also a comic tie-in for this that was a one-issue thing.
Oh yeah.
Which, remember, you and I looked for that at Action Toyman. They didn't have it.
But there's a lot of just one-off villains because they didn't want to really use a lot of the classic villains. I know they did use Doctor Doom a lot too, but Basically, they would have like weird monsters. Flash Thompson was in this show. He was just a comic relief bully that picked on Peter that Angelica and Bobby just had no time for. Especially because he hit on Angelica a lot.
I think you're real funny, don't you, freak?
Jeez, Flash, how could you say that to me? I'm just an upstanding young teenager, even though I sound like I'm 30.
I won't fight you, Flash.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight me either. But like, like that, again, like there'd be a lot of goofy stuff, but I think here it kind of works better than like the Spider-Man 5000, just because like the show just feels kind of like, oh, it's fun and silly, and we're superheroes fighting together.
Because I liked it when I was a kid. I have all of it on DVD, but I admittedly haven't rewatched it.
Some highlights for the show include the episode where they explain how like Firestar's origins, where they all go to meet with the X-Men because they're having like a high school reunion at the X-Mansion. Which, fun fact, this has Australian Wolverine in it that was used in Pride of the X-Men. And is hilarious because who plays Wolverine in the live action? An Australian!
Yeah, who Japanese Wolverine?
Because, like, they don't get a Canadian to play Wolverine until the 90s X-Men cartoon.
It's just funny.
And that's only because the whole cast is voiced by Canadians. Where I want to go. And to be fair, him and Steve Blum are probably my favorite Wolverine voice actors, but yeah, there's some other highlights, but like that one's probably one of my more favorite ones. And actually, I think the first episode I ever saw of the show, especially because it's cool seeing like all the X-Men together. But I think this one is actually still pretty good too, and I feel like it's kind of a shame that like they don't reference the Amazing Friends stuff at all in modern comics.
Yeah.
The only time I ever saw them reference the Amazing Friends was in the Ultimate Universe, and they used Johnny as the fire character, and I'm like, well, that's not really that fun if you're not going to actually do the Amazing Friends.
To actually do it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's such a shame, but like they just kind of act like it's kind of a personal shame for them.
I don't know why, because again, it's a good show. It's enjoyable.
It's goofy, but most kids shows were.
You know how many Marvel shows I've watched that are goofy as fuck?
Hell, the 90s Fantastic Four show has the Ghost Rider defeat Galactus.
Come on, that's not
by himself.
That's not fucking goofy. Like,
yeah, that show gets brought up all the time.
Gambit don't cook no TV dinners. Like that shit. Yeah. Get out of here. That shit's goofy as hell.
Does them all, baby. Chili fries. Fucking Jubilee.
Yeah, like, come on. There's shit in all of these that's fucking just whack.
At least Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends has a decent premise. But moving on. The next animated series, of course, we've talked about a lot, is Spider-Man TAS.
Probably the most memorable of the Spider-Man animated shows.
Yeah.
It's the one a lot of people remember.
Yeah.
It's all on Disney Plus.
Yeah. It has my favorite Spider-Man voice actor, Christopher Daniel Barnes. He's actually who I picture in my head when I read a Spider-Man comic. Kind of like, and I know that probably is because like I grew up with the show. I know a lot of people say Josh Keaton's better, but
get back here, Shocker!
Shocker! Yeah.
God. Blows the goddamn mic out to the point where the symbiote's like, bro, you're hurting me.
Mary Jane! No!
Pain! It's excruciating!
Oh no, my mutation disease!
Look, there's a lot of memes. It's a good show, but there's some parts where it's really over the goddamn top.
And don't forget me, Skeletor Green Goblin!
Don't bring that shit up. We're not bringing that up again.
And me, Hobgoblin! Voiced by Mark Hamill. Okay.
No.
This show is notable for actually having Deborah Whitman in it.
Which is like a rarity.
Which is weird, she wasn't even really a character, like, in that point.
Yeah.
It has that, Peter going to college instead of being a high schooler. It, of course, has him dating Mary Jane. It has, like, all of this, like, characters. It introduces characters like the Big Wheel and Rocket Racer. Like, it really delves into not just, like, the really...
It brings in some obscure stuff.
Yeah, like that. The Invaders from 1940s, like Captain America's, like, World War II buddies, like the Wizard. They reference the fucking Wizard.
And it's in the universe with the X-Men animation.
And it's in the universe with the X-Men universe. And the Iron Man show.
Those are all secondly the Hulk too, I think.
Yeah.
They're all in canon with one another.
No, actually, I don't think it was the Hulk. They replaced him with the Thing in the Secret Wars show.
Technically, apparently, Spider-Man Unlimited is also in canon with this, but that's debatable.
It is.
It's listed as being in canon with everything.
It is, but
debatable.
I find that really debatable. But we'll get to that when we talk about Spider-Man Unlimited, which we will here. Sadly, the show unfortunately ended on a cliffhanger, but it was a cliffhanger where was he going to find Mary Jane? And it's a children's kids show. Yeah. Of course he was going to find Mary Jane.
Yeah, so then after that, there was Spider-Man Unlimited, which is a show I see a lot of people love to hate, and I'm sorry, I love this fucking show. And not just because I think the costume in it is like,
to be fair, that costume is pretty
badass.
Rad. It is very rad costume.
But like I really enjoyed this show as a kid. Like to me it was like, oh man, this is like Batman Beyond, you know? And I love Batman Beyond. It's like I love this too, because this is awesome. And like going back and rewatching it, it hasn't aged as well as I thought it was going to. But
the animation, in my opinion, has.
It's still really good in my opinion.
For one, I think it has way better animation than TAS.
No, it definitely does.
It doesn't nearly recycle as much.
I think it had a little bit better budget.
All right, so to give you and it's funny you bring up Batman Beyond because okay, so around this time Batman Beyond was coming out, and Marvel's like, well, shit, we were gonna make a Spider-Man 2099 show. Well, we can't do that now. So they still want to do a futuristic thing. So the plot of this is that Spider-Man fails to stop Carnage and Venom, who are now working together for, I think, like a symbiote god. Like before even they made like the black symbiote god from like...
It's fucking convoluted.
Yeah. Basically, or either that or it's like the symbiote king. I forget exactly, but... Basically, they get onto John Jonah Jameson's ship, the son of J. Jonah Jameson, and they send it because he's going to take a spaceship into this weird portal that leads to Counter-Earth and the High Evolutionary, which were X-Men villains. But here Spider-Man's fighting him. Also, hold on a second, my hair. Okay. Peter feeling, of course, guilty because he's Peter fucking Parker. Fun fact, this Peter Parker is actually voiced by the same guy who voices Peter Parker in the PS1 Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
And so he, with the help of Reed Richards, makes himself a new suit and steals a spaceship so that he can go through the portal and, of course, ends up on Counter-Earth. And the basic plot of this is that Peter and John Jameson and some other characters are trying to find a spaceship so that they can get back to regular Earth and also stop the High Evolutionary's reign of terror on the humans of Counter-Earth, because him and his weird animal-human hybrids, the Animen, rule over regular humans like they're second-class citizens. It's a little convoluted.
Yeah, they kind of like you got Peter and John kind of like going like freedom fighters. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Carol Corps storyline from Captain Marvel that they did recently.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. I mean, I like it. It's a little fucking convoluted in a lot of different parts. I mean, but to me, it's worth it, if not just because of just how fucking cool I still think that costume is.
And there's some cool...
I want an actual costume of that in real life, and I've looked into it, and it's like, they make them, but like the ones I keep finding, like...
Don't have the web cape.
They don't have the web cape, which I'm like, I could probably make, but at the same time, I'm like, I'd like to just get one that has it.
Yeah. I think a lot of the problems is this show does a lot of really weird redesigns. For instance, Venom and Carnage look fucking ridiculous in this show. They really do. Venom not so much, but Carnage looks appalling because he's got like this skeletal look to him.
Let me see if I can find a picture of that.
The show also features a heroic Green Goblin, which I think at this time the heroic Green Goblin was a thing.
Well, because I think Phil was...
Yeah. He's this hero Green Goblin on Counter-Earth that helps Peter from time to time. Let's just show him the costume real quick, because this costume is actually designed to be like nanobots that can like change color. They work as his clothes for the show.
Here's a better one, because you can actually see the cape in this one.
It's also built to be an anti-symbiote costume, because it has like sonic abilities and such. I don't really remember a lot of the episodes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people clamoring for that to be in the next Insomniac game.
I wouldn't mind, because I like the costume.
I would love for that to be in there. I would play the hell out of that.
I'm also going to kind of contradict what everyone says that this is in canon with the Okay, that's a nice looking. But because everyone says it's in canon, I don't believe it's in canon with the animated series because for one, it's in the first episode they show news footage of Spider-Man battling Doctor Octopus, and this Doc Ock looks much more like the 616 Doc Ock than the animated Doc Ock. The animated Doc Ock looks like he's a toy, but like this Doc Ock looks very much like a flabby old Doc Ock, and they look horrible in this. I like Venom, not so much.
That looks okay, but like, what the fuck did they do to Carnage in this? Holy
Like they make
fuck.
it look like a zombie.
Yeah, he looks fucking awful in this.
Then
I mean, he
sorry.
looks creepy as shit, but I'm like, dude, like, that is not a good design for him.
Then like there's no really interesting villains in the show. A lot of times it's just Animen guys working for the High Evolutionary. My favorite part being the fact that the guys that created the show said that if there was a second season, they would have had Peter get off Counter Earth. I'm sorry, but no. You're full of shit. The show would have had him stuck on Counter Earth throughout the entirety of it. Like,
I don't think so. You know why? They would have got back with somehow the High Evolutionary would have got through the portal and would have came to the normal Earth. You know damn well.
yeah, but they probably would have
done
set that up, done that in the last season. Like, not even the second.
I think they would have done it for the second one.
I don't know. Knowing what I know about like cartoons from that era, that's usually what they did. But fair enough. But yeah, sadly, this show, for what I know, its original airing only managed to air 3 of the 13 episodes. They didn't actually re-air all 13. They actually didn't air all 13 until JetX, at least as far as I know. I could be wrong about that, but basically
checking because I actually don't know.
It wasn't very popular, and I kind of get
because I loved this as a kid.
Well, I think also people were just like, this is.
Why did Spider-Man Unlimited get canceled?
Well, I think the biggest problem is the fact that it looks like Spider-Man 2099, but it's not Spider-Man 2099.
It says poor viewership is why it was canceled.
Well, the other being the fact that it came out after TAS, and TAS already ended on a cliffhanger, and this show didn't resolve the cliffhanger. Even though Mary Jane's alive and well with Peter in this, but
Jennifer Hale previously voiced Black Cat in this, apparently.
She was in. Okay.
Apparently, that's what it's saying.
Well, that means she was in TAS.
No, it's. I'm telling you, it's listed for Unlimited. Is why I'm reading it.
I mean, fair.
So, at least I'm trying to.
But yeah, it is kind of a shame because like I feel like if this show had at least another season, they might have been able to kind of balance it out. Maybe actually add some other villains into the show. Because otherwise, it was just Venom, Carnage, and the Animen, and because I do remember watching a lot.
Oh, never mind. Jennifer Hale voices MJ and Lady Vermin in this. I think that's why they listed it.
Oh,
in TAS,
okay,
she was Black Cat.
yeah.
Which I love Jennifer Hale.
No, I like
because she's Bastila in KOTOR.
Yeah. Fun fact, actually, and I probably brought this up
As
before.
well as Shepard in Mass Effect.
I probably brought this up before, but Jennifer Hale and Christopher Daniel Barnes actually portray the Prince and Cinderella from the Disney Cinderella directed VHS, which is hilarious because I just imagine this is an alternate universe where Peter and Felicia are married and they are stuck in like a fairy tale land.
Or if we go with this one, it's just MJ and Peter again.
Or MJ and Peter again. So, whatever weird fanfic you want to write from that knowledge, please feel free to send it to us. Emails are. So yeah,
I liked it. I think a little bit better writing maybe would have been better for it in the long run.
that or like maybe just have the High Evolutionary stuff be like the one season and then actually get them back to Earth. But I don't know. Okay, so the next show on our list is the MTV show, right?
Yeah.
The New Adventures of Spider-Man.
Which only lasted a season because it wasn't really that great.
I think it was even less episodes than Unlimited. I want to say it was only like 6 episodes, 6 or 7.
I don't know. I know the complete series is 2 discs. So
Okay.
I have this.
This show actually features Most of you probably know him as Barney from How I Met Your Mother. I knew him as Doogie Howser. Neil Patrick Harris as Spider-Man, who is actually kind of a popular like of Peter.
Yeah, and I mean, the funny thing is, this was supposed to originally be in canon with Raimi.
Yeah.
But then Spider-Man 2 threw all this shit out, probably because they were like, no.
Well,
None of this needs to be in canon.
I find it odd they say it's in canon because like none of the character designs look even close to like Tobey Maguire or Kirsten Dunst or James. Well, Harry looks kind of close to James Franco, except that he's blonde.
Yeah.
Although MJ's design in this show is
I like MJ's
really
design
good.
in this.
Okay, so basically the show is supposedly a continuation of the first Raimi film. I say supposedly.
Because again, it's since been made uncanon because of Spider-Man 2.
The other thing is that
obviously better.
Is that it rips a lot from the Ultimate Universe because that was what was the big hot thing for Spider-Man at the time. Like the first episode opens with Peter like taking his costume off, trying to get to class, and he's like burning his feet on the roof, which is a reference to the Ultimate Universe. I've only ever really seen one episode of it. It's really weird, and again, it suffers from the same problem as a lot of the animated shows that's not TAS, is that it doesn't really want to use a lot of the classic villains. I think they used Lizard and like Silver Sable. That was kind of it for this show.
Yeah, and it's like, I own it, and I've admittedly never watched a lot of it, but like, what I've seen of it is like, because I remember when this came out, because I was in anything Spider-Man. I loved TAS, I loved Amazing Friends, I loved Unlimited, and I remember seeing the trailer for this at the beginning of the first Raimi film, the VHS tape, and I just remember thinking, that is the most ugliest animation I have ever seen in my life.
This show is...
Like, I didn't watch it because I purposely was like, I do not like this animation.
Yeah, this series is the definition of it's CGI and it has not aged well.
It was dated when it fucking came out.
Yeah.
It looked like shit when it came out. It wasn't ever considered looking good.
I would actually consider the Beast Wars from '96 looked better than this.
I don't know about that from what I've seen. I think it's a little better than Beast Wars, but not by much.
Well, I mostly say that because like the animation for humans in this looks a little... At least with Beast Wars, they're robots, so like it doesn't look nearly as uncanny.
I remember a lot of shows using this animation style like around this time, and I just remember being like, "It looks fucking ugly. Like, why do they keep going with this?"
Like, it almost kind of looks like the same animation they used for Iron Man Armored Adventures, but Iron Man Armored Adventures looks better than this. And I remember that being a thing around that time, where it's just why I watched older cartoons, because I was like, I don't like this CGI shit. It doesn't look good. I mean,
but it was like they kept trying to force it into everything. And I'm like, guys, it looks like trash. Stop using this.
In a lot of ways, it was kind of for the early 2000s the way Flash animation was for the 2010s, because it was
cheap.
It was cheap. They would use it, but the problem is, if you're not good at using this cheap tool,
it looks like shit.
As someone who liked Flash shows from 2010s, a lot of them look like garbage. And here the CG, it probably also doesn't help that they have to reuse a lot of shots because they can't keep making new models. And it is kind of a shame because like there were some great actors for this, and the fact that it was on MTV allowed them to be a little bit more adult.
Yeah.
But like it's not very good, and it's a shame because I like Neil Patrick Harris as Peter.
Yeah, I like all the actors and actresses in this. It's just... my biggest thing with this show has always been that animation is like the fuggliest stuff I've ever seen.
And again, like it doesn't really feel like it's a continuation of the movies if you were a big fan of the movies.
There was a guy on DeviantArt I saw that redrew a lot of these characters like with the same costume, but he drew them in like the TAS style, and I'm like, it looked 1,000 times better. I'm like, damn, if it looked like this, I would have watched it. It's just I can't get past, and like. I know one day you and I are going to probably watch all of it because I have it. I'll loan it to you.
And it's very short.
We'll review it,
so
but it's like...
long to watch it.
Again, God, it looked dated when it came out.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like something from like 99.
Yeah.
Like, or like that cheesy...
Oh!
You know what it reminds me of? That cheesy-ass shot in the first Blade movie where he cuts the dude in half and he brings himself back together. Like, the one that has the really shitty CGI.
It's funny you mentioned the 90s, because you know what I realized it made me think more of? Not Beast Wars, but Beast Machines. And Beast Machines is... You think Beast Wars is kind of bad looking? Beast Wars is fugly. Like, it...
Again, this animation style was fugly. I'm glad that the fad of this wore out after like I think '04.
And I think it helps that like modern CGI shows like to try and do a bit more, not cartoony, but like they don't try to go for a realistic look.
Remember, Code Lyoko used this style for a while, but like they actually did a good job of it, which was they didn't use it all the goddamn time.
Yeah, and then Code Lyoko, it's stylized enough that like it doesn't look
Creepy. Well, plus at that point that show was coming out. I think the tech had evolved a little more where it didn't look nearly as bad.
I always forget you watched Code Lyoko. We should do a review of that sometime.
I haven't seen it in years, dude. I know it's on Netflix. I would have to rewatch it because like I barely remember anything about it.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, and so that was kind of the last Spider-Man show for a while until about 2008 when Spider-Man 3 was coming out, which brings us to sadly a show I didn't watch when it was coming out, but I watched later and regretted how I didn't want to watch it. I am, of course, talking about Spectacular Spider-Man, which that theme song is amazing.
I'm actually not a fan of that. I think it's annoying as hell. You gotta remember, you know me with music. I am picky as fuck with music. I know. It's just like, I've never liked that one.
But the show, though, however, is actually quite good.
Yeah, the show's good. I just don't like the theme song.
This show, of course, actually started Josh Keaton as the voice for Peter, who I like more as a younger Peter. I don't like him as like an adult Peter. I think he makes more sense as like the ultimate Peter.
Yeah.
This show actually takes place after of course, the famous, Amazing Fantasy 15 story happened. It's supposed to be more closer to the Raimi films because, again, the Raimi films were what were in canon at the time. Or were what were
this was made by Sony.
Yeah, this was made by Sony, and again, this came out around the time Spider-Man 3 was coming out, hence why at the end of the first season, they have Venom show up, because Venom was...
And I love how they did the Venom suit in this, because like how it changes.
Yeah.
Like, I really like... I never noticed that, like, 'cause I own this whole thing on Blu-ray, I have the complete series.
Yeah.
And someone pointed that out online, and I was like, I had never noticed it, and then like I looked at it, and I'm like, that is actually a very nice, subtle touch.
Yeah.
Like when I saw bits and pieces of this when it aired, and I do remember seeing the Venom suit in it. I just remember thinking like I don't remember it changing. And then when someone pointed out, I was like, oh, that is actually like a nice touch.
They actually do the 3-suit thing where it looks just like a black and white classic.
And then the more he wears it, like it starts to look more and more like the Venom suit,
as if symbolizing how much it's corrupting him. Which I actually, that was really cool. And this show actually does again do a lot of like deep cuts, like. They do a Master Planner storyline in season 2 with Doc Ock. They have Tombstone in the show, which, I mean, TAS did that, but like this Tombstone...
He's in the PS4 game, too.
In the PS4. They brought Tombstone... They did the Molten Man!
Which, again, that's a deep cut. And especially in this day and age, that's a deep cut.
What else did they do? There were some other ones. They also turned Kraven into a Lion Man before Grim Hunt did it. Which actually was only like...
Probably where Grim Hunt got it from.
Yeah. The show originally aired on Kids WB, which is surreal. That is surreal. That it was on a Warner Brothers owned television channel. Unfortunately, only for the first season. The second season sadly didn't air in the States, if I remember correctly. It aired... Okay, it did air in the States later, but it aired in Canada and like other like European countries.
Yeah. And like I said, you can get the whole thing on Blu-ray now.
And sadly was canceled more or less because Marvel bought the rights back to the animated stuff with Spider-Man. And then, of course, Disney and Marvel do absolutely nothing with it other than making really shitty cartoons.
Yeah, that's one thing. Is like we're not gonna get too much into the most recent ones because I'll be honest.
I've only seen the bits of Ultimate.
I've seen Ultimate, and again, I've seen bits of it. I own all of Ultimate, and I still haven't watched all of it because it's like. It's not very good.
But yeah,
and the newer one is, I argue, even worse.
That animation looks fucking bad. But,
oh my God.
But before we go back, let's stay on Spectacular.
Yeah.
Especially because I kind of have a personal story with this show because I feel so bad when I watched it. But the show is notable for doing a lot of cool stuff. Steve Blum does the voice of the Green Goblin, who I actually think is a pretty good voice for the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Like he makes him sound manic and like. Creepy, but not like the high-pitched Skeletor voice that like TAS gave him. It had great mixing of both the Raimi stuff and like Ultimate. It was like Eddie Brock is like a a college kid that like is working for Kurt Connors instead of being like an actual adult.
Oh, is Kurt an alcoholic like he is in the Ultimate Comics?
Wait, what? Kurt's an alcoholic in?
He kind of is. They imply that.
I mean, fair, because he lost that arm in a war, so I guess it would make sense why he's an
Yeah,
alcoholic.
they try to imply that. At least that's what I picked up on. Maybe I was wrong in thinking that.
It also, again, has Gwen, I think one of the first shows that actually used Gwen Stacy as like a main character, except that her design is Deborah Whitman's design. Although a lot of people don't have problems with that, but I kind of do just because...
They're not the same character.
Again, this goes with like the Gwen that like she was when she died, where she's just the girl next door, which is weird because Mary Jane's in this show and she's supposed to be the girl next door. Although the Mary Jane in this was fine, and she was, and I love this Mary Jane because they get her so right. Because like one of my problems with TAS is they make Mary Jane way too
Blah.
blah. This Mary Jane is how I like Mary Jane.
Recently, the current artist for it might have been, no, it wasn't Campbell, it was somebody else. But the current artist for Amazing brought up he did a commission of Mary Jane, like how he draws her. He drew her in like the TAS outfit. It looks really
cool.
good.
But otherwise, the show is actually really good. It has way better fight scenes than TAS because they were allowed to punch each other. It has great redesigns for a lot of the classic Spider-Man villains. I love the Vulture design in this. The Electro design is really fun. I like Doc Ock's design. Shocker was pretty good. One of those hilarious because they gave him a Texan accent. Don't mock me, boy. Oh, I'll mock you however I want, darn tootin'. Josh Keaton is amazing as Peter. Like because he gets like I mope and be depressed about myself, but also really funny. Sadly, I didn't watch it when it was coming out because I was 18 at the time, and I basically didn't like it because it wasn't TAS. And I was really ashamed of myself about that after I watched it later on, as I got a little bit older, and I realized, oh, this was actually good. I actually felt really ashamed about that. Like, and then when I wanted to get into watching it, it only had 2 seasons, and I'm like, why? And because I think Warner Brothers and Sony lost the rights to the animated series, and also sadly, it was a victim of not doing well in toy sales, mostly because Spider-Man 3 happened and people kind of lost touch with it. What are your thoughts on?
I admittedly haven't watched all of it yet. It's okay. I don't like it as much as TAS or Unlimited.
I mean, fair.
I don't think it's not that I think it's bad. It's just It's not for me. You know what I mean?
Fair.
It's not. It doesn't really click with me. Which I know maybe somewhere down the line it will. Because stuff does take a little bit sometimes. But I mean, I don't think it's bad. It's not the best, I would argue. But I mean, it's enjoyable. I enjoy it.
Yeah, for me, I realized as I got older how much it's surprisingly good. Because like when you go into this, it looks kind of like the Batman or like a lot of Warner Brother or Kids WB stuff. But it's surprisingly good. I actually would recommend this for people if they want to watch it. Which brings us, of course, to Ultimate Spider-Man.
Which I own all of, haven't watched all of it, and what I've seen of it varies in quality like a goddamn seesaw.
Yeah, especially because the show kind of did the whole we don't know what we want to do, so we kind of are different every season.
Like they did Carnage at one point, and while they let him do a little more than he does in TAS, it's just wacky. And like Mary Jane gets hit with the Carnage symbiote.
Oh, yeah,
she becomes Ultimate Spider-Woman in this, which is kind of cool, and I like it. But like, they give her Kane's costume.
Yeah, and they also changed her voice actress a lot. And in that point, she's voiced by Tara Strong, and I'm like, oh, I don't think Tara's voice really fits MJ. At least that's just me. I don't think you minded it as much.
I don't mind it. She's certainly not my favorite MJ voice.
No. The show is also. It has Drake Bell as Peter, or Spider-Man, and he's fine. A lot of my problems with the show is it feels a lot like Batman the Brave and the Bold, but not nearly as, good as Batman Brave and the Bold, which says something, because that was also a show that when it was coming out, I said, no, I don't want to watch it, because I was in that period where it was like, ugh. anything that's Silver Age or Golden Age Batman is garbage. I was intolerable in college, Colton. I was very
No,
intolerable.
I can believe it. It's just I don't like people banging on the Golden Age stuff.
No, and like I said, I'm a lot older and
What
realized
did you
that
like at that point? I just wonder. If you didn't like Golden and Silver Age, did you just like Bronze Age stuff?
I think a lot of that had to do with Batman, and I was at that point where I was like, I don't like the Adam West show because it's the thing that everyone remembers and why and I like Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I think it wasn't so much Golden Age and Silver Age for
You just didn't like the wacky shit.
For mostly because I didn't want that Batman being a thing because I didn't want people thinking Batman was a joke. Now I've realized how stupid that is.
I was like that too. I didn't really like the '60s show, and then
yeah,
I love the '60s show now
because I've come back around and I love Batman the Brave and the Bold. Like I love that Aquaman. It's also probably the best Blue Beetle show we ever got. But like a lot of it for me was just when I was in college, I didn't like seeing like my favorite characters be made into jokes. Probably a lot of it was due to the fact that I didn't care for the way people ragged on the Raimi films as I got older, and also I like Dark Knight, and I was like, no, this is how Batman's supposed to be, not like Batman and Robin, which I've also come around to being like, it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
It's really odd.
And unfortunately, I don't think that's the case with Ultimate Spider-Man, because what I've seen of it is just, like, I remember the first episode I watched of it. It was this one where Mary Jane is, like, working for the Daily Bugle, and she's, like, filming everything on her cell phone. And Peter is fighting the Hulk. And he just keeps making stupid quips. It reminds me of Bendis Spider-Man, and I hate the way Bendis writes Spider-Man, because Bendis Spider-Man is intolerable, and basically
he just won't shut the fuck up.
He's just basically a kid-friendly version of Deadpool, and I'm like, that is not Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then like they always do the thing where like the chibi Spider-Man or like the angel and the devil on his shoulders. They had that stupid thing with him and like the Defenders where they had like White Panther or White Tiger and like Nova and Luke Cage and Iron Fist with him, and I didn't care for any of it when I saw it come out. I was like, this is awful. Which I can't even really recommend Ultimate Spider-Man. I know people say like some of the later seasons, like particularly the Spider-Verse stuff, is actually good. It's not for me. And I guess, of course, we got to talk about Marvel's Spider-Man.
Which I've seen barely anything about. I know that,
All I can say is the animation looks garbage.
yeah, the animation looks fucking terrible on it, which... That's on Disney Plus. Some point I'll watch it.
Yeah,
it's still coming out.
And maybe it's not as bad as we think it is, or maybe it improved a little, but...
The things I've heard about it from other people secondhand, they don't really make me want to run out and watch it.
Especially because I know they do a Superior Spider-Man arc in it, and I'm like, no, I don't want to watch Superior Spider-Man. I'm so tired of Superior Spider-Man. Like, it wasn't even good when it was coming out, no matter how much people try to defend it to me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either.
Yeah, so we really can't say much about that show other than I don't really think the animation looks good. I might try watching it.
Felicia Day as and Mary Jane in it.
Well, that's pretty cool. I will give it points to that again. I'm also sorry I kind of got into a tirade about College Adam, and
No, you're fine. I see a lot of people banging on Silver Age and Golden Age stuff with Batman, which I'm like, damn, I love that stuff.
no,
Because I maybe I'm a rarity in that I like dark. I can like dark and gritty Batman, and then I can turn around and be like, I like Batman and Robin and like Batman Forever and '60s Batman. Like I like Batman just general.
We might have to do this for Batman because like I think a lot of it was just because like I was like, oh, this isn't like anything like the Batman the Animated Series. It's so kiddie and like childish, and it doesn't have the nuance of Batman the Animated Series. And now that I've grown up, I'm like, teenage Adam, nothing can be like Batman the Animated
Get off
Series.
the high horse.
Yeah, no, because again, like I used to also think that the Adam West series.
Well, actually.
Yeah. But I came around to Batman the Brave and the Bold, and I feel stupid for not liking it because like it's something I like now. It probably also helps that I'm so tired of grim and gritty shit in like the popular superhero medium. But I've kind of come around and realized that like you need to have a little bit of both, or else you get tired of one or the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was our little talk about Spider-Man animated stuff. Again, I recommend TAS and Spectacular if you really want to watch something like seriously. Spider-Man is Amazing Friends if you want to watch something silly. A lot of these other shows I really wouldn't recommend unless you're like really into Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like particularly the 60s show because
Oof.
Yeah.
Casual racism.
Casual racism, and unless you're used to watching old school animation,
Like
you're just,
me, like you and me, like Scooby Doo. It's like
Yeah.
we've seen a lot. We've seen our share full of just old animation.
yeah, I've watched
the
enough.
low ass frame rate.
Yeah, like, or where they only move their heads and their lips, and we do what's known as
Hey,
a
what's
tongue
that
action.
book on the shelf? It's oddly the only one fucking drawn. Everything else is like a goddamn other background.
Fred, why'd you eat my ass?
Why'd you drink my carpet?
But anyway, guys, I think that's gonna wrap this one up. Tell us what you guys think about these different shows if you've watched them, and feel free to yell at us in the comments about how we're wrong about every other Spider-Man show that we didn't like.
You guys are fucking clueless.
Well, I can't wait till someone's like, I can't believe you guys defended Spider-Man Unlimited. I'm like, it's not really that bad.
Fucking fight me. Here's my home address. I'll leave the door open. Fight me.
That didn't really work out for Tony Stark. I don't know if you really want to.
Fucking leave the door open.
I would not. I would at least lock the door. Give yourself a little bit of time to prepare. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Remember the Hyphen. Come back for some more. We got I think 2 more left for Spidiness, I want to say.
Maybe a little more if we get lucky.
Maybe
we might have a
if we
little
get
more in the
lucky,
tank.
but
We don't know.
We don't know. But until then, guys, I'm Zongetsu134.
And I'm Average Joe Squad.
And as always, we ask you,
Remember the hyphen?
and take care.